Universal remotes have been an odd area of the smart home ecosystem, and ever since the Logitech Harmony Elite was discontinued, despite many attempts, there really hasn't been anything else that's compared. What we're looking at today is the Sofabaton X2 smart remote, and it's available to buy now. It's a premium multi-device smart remote that can control devices across infrared, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, RF, and best of all, it has Home Assistant support as well. In this video, I'm looking at what this remote has to offer, trying it out with a range of devices, and ultimately seeing what it can do with Home Assistant. Hey everyone, my name's Simon and welcome to Bite of Geek, a channel that's all about Home Assistant and smart home technology. So a big thank you to Sofabaton for sending me out their new X2 smart home remote to test and review on the channel. As always, they've had no editorial input into this video and you'll get my honest thoughts and opinions about it. So on the box then, well, you'll see that the X2 can directly control over 50 devices, whether they're infrared, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi or RF. It supports both Amazon and Google smart speakers, and in addition to this it also supports Home Assistant directly, and we'll talk more about that in just a moment. Inside the box we have a quick start guide and an instruction manual, the remote control itself. We then have the hub and a dock for the remote, some IR blasters, and finally 2 USB cables and power adapters. Now the X2 remote is possibly the most premium remote I've ever held, and it certainly has some heft to it. The body is zinc alloy on the front and sides, with the back being polycarbonate, and this almost feels like you're holding a premium mobile phone when it's in your hand. On the front you've got a clear and bright 2.4-inch touch colour display, and this has lots of different views depending on what devices you're using and how you can interact with them. Under that we have a jog wheel with a center button, and below that we have various control buttons and hotkeys, all of which are completely configurable according to your needs. So pretty much all the control you're going to need for your devices. The remote has a 1200 milliamp hour rechargeable battery, which is supposed to be good for up to 30 days between charges, but obviously that will depend on your usage. However, it's easy enough just to put it in the dock overnight to charge, and it fully recharges in about 3 hours. The X2 hub is a small gloss black plastic square with a USB-C port on the back for power, a couple of inputs for the infrared blasters should you want to use them, a pairing button for the initial setup, and on the front is a small status LED. So the hub is used in conjunction with the remote, and it acts as the central point of communication, offering a 360-degree IR coverage and an effective range of up to 40 feet. And by connecting one or both of the IR blasters, you can control any device in blind spots or those that might live inside a cabinet. You can further extend the infrared range by adding on one of the wireless infrared repeaters, which are sold separately, and the remote also has a built-in IR transmitter itself, which can be used for any direct line of sight control of your devices. So to get started with the X2, well, it's just a case of ensuring the remote is fully charged and then setting up an account on the Sofabaton app. Once that was set up, I had to choose what remote I was using and then put the hub into pairing mode and connect it to my Wi-Fi. It's just worth noting here that it will only work with a 2.4 GHz band. Once that was done, I then had a couple of firmware updates to do, which went through pretty quickly. However, I'm not sure if there isn't some kind of glitch with the process here, as after they'd finished, it was almost as if the hub had completely disappeared from the app. However, it did come back again after I closed and restarted the app, and at this point I was ready to add in my first device. Now, the X2 supports a multitude of different control methods that should have your devices covered. With over 500,000 devices across more than 6,000 brands, you've got infrared, complete with learning mode, Bluetooth, which covers a range of devices including Android boxes, Apple TV and Nvidia Shield. You've then got both 433 MHz and 315 MHz RF device control, and finally you have a Wi-Fi control. And the Wi-Fi control option is an interesting one and a bit special as it breaks down into subcategories. So you have standard Wi-Fi devices like Roku, Sonos, Philips Hue, and as I mentioned earlier, you then have control via Home Assistant. And finally, you have direct IP control as well. So if you wanted to do something via if this then that, for example, then this would be a good option. Now, I don't have a big AV setup in my home, but I was keen to see how much of what I do have the X2 was able to control. After all, it's meant to be compatible with over 500,000 devices from those 6,000 different brands. So in my setup, I have a Sky TV Stream, a Samsung TV, Samsung soundbar, and a Sony Blu-ray player, and I'm hoping I'll be able to replace all of those with the X2. I'm also going to hook up my old Xbox One console to see if that works as well. It's not listed as being officially supported, but I figured that it was worth giving it a try as I've yet to find a remote that will control it. It's worth noting that if you use the voice control on your current remote, then the X2 remote doesn't have a microphone itself. However, that doesn't mean that you can't voice control things, you just do it via your smart home speaker instead. So first up, and I'm going to try my Samsung TV, and with common devices like this, you should be able to find them in the extensive device database. I'm going to search for Samsung and then the model number, and for some odd reason, this TV does go by slightly different model numbers. It's a little bit weird, but anyway, I'm going to try this one, which is pretty close, and once confirmed, then you get to test out the remote features in the app. So if I just try out the power function just by turning it on and off, and as you can see, that's all working fine. I then need to pick the default IR transmitter. So I'm going to use the hub, and then I just need to confirm things like the name and the icon, and then it's going to download all of the information to the hub, and then it'll sync this to the remote control. So if I now just give that a quick test with a remote, so if I go into devices and my Samsung TV and try out the power options, and as you can see, that's turning the TV on and off. And at this point, if I find that some of the buttons aren't working quite as they should be, then I can configure those in the app to function exactly as I want them to. So moving on to my Sony Blu-ray player, and this is about 10 years old, so hopefully I'll be able to find it in the device list. So if I select Sony and then put in the model number and then select this one, again, just a case of testing it in the app before it then downloads to the hub and syncs to the remote. And then as you can see, that's all working fine as well. Next is my Samsung soundbar, and as this is quite new, I don't really foresee a problem with this. I just have to repeat the whole process, and as you can just about tell by the little LED on the front, that is also working. Now, the next remote is going to be interesting. This is a Sky TV Stream remote, and this operates in either Bluetooth or infrared. When it operates in Bluetooth, you have a voice search capability, and whilst the X2 doesn't have a built-in microphone, you can still voice control via your smart speaker. Not something for everyone, but still, the option's there, and it's not a big deal for me anyway, as I never use that functionality. So if I add a new device and search for Sky, and we're looking for either Sky Stream or a Sky Puck, and there you go, there's the Puck. So let's just pick that and see what happens. And we just go through the same process as before, and just like the other remotes, that is working as well. Now, the last thing on my list is my Xbox One console, and because of the way some of these consoles communicate, they can be a real problem for universal remotes. I was fully expecting to have to go through the process of having the X2 try and learn the game controller commands, but as it turns out, Xbox is listed in the app, and under that brand there's quite a few devices, including the Xbox One, which is what I've gone and selected. But will it work though? Well, if I give it a try in the app, and as you can see, that has gone and turned the Xbox on, and with another press, I've managed to go and turn it off. So that's all 5 devices that I wanted to test out, and they've all worked. But once you've got them all set up, you can then tweak the settings for the buttons on the remote if something doesn't work quite the same way as it does on your original, until you get it exactly how you want it. Now, as good as setting up your devices is, it's the activities feature that you'll most likely be using from day to day. Activities are probably best described as scenes that you use to control multiple devices with just one key press. And they sit in an area alongside devices on the remote, so they're easy to get to and just make it super easy to get everything up and running rather than going through every device and switching them on individually. As an example, I've set up one for watching Blu-ray movies, and this just requires you to define what devices are in the activity and which ones will perform functions like volume adjustment and navigation. So this activity turns on the TV, the soundbar and the Blu-ray player, so 3 devices in total, all turned on with one quick swipe. I then took this one just a little step further and added an additional step to the device startup process and had the Blu-ray player eject the tray once everything is started. I also created one for a game night, and this time it's using the Xbox, the TV and the soundbar, and that works great as well. And once you've done 1 or 2 of these, it's really easy to get everything configured how you need them. There is a bit of a first time user gotcha with the activities though, and that is that your immediate instinct is just to press the activity listed, but instead you actually swipe to the side to run them, after which the remote gives a vibration feedback and everything kicks into action. Now, one of the best features of the new X2 remote is that it now supports Home Assistant directly via MQTT, allowing you to control anything that is set up in your smart home just by creating an automation. It's a really simple process. You just go into your control method in the app and select Wi-Fi, and there you can select the Home Assistant option. And at this point, you're now setting up a new command. So you need to give it a name, and at the bottom of the screen are the MQTT topic and payload details that you need to copy and put those into Home Assistant. Then in Home Assistant, you just create a new automation with MQTT as a trigger, and you can now specify either the payload or the topic that you've just copied, which will then cause the automation to trigger. After that, you just set up the rest of your automation as you would normally, and I cannot express how simple this was to do. And of course, your Home Assistant automation can do whatever you want it to do. So effectively, you're now expanding the remote to control all kinds of things like Zigbee and Z-Wave devices. I've been using the X2 for a while now, and it has taken a little getting used to, mainly because you interact more with the touch screen rather than the keypad, which is very different to my existing remotes. But after a while, you do get the hang of it. The hub just sits on the TV bench, and I've got all the devices connected to that, and it just works. I've not needed to use the IR blasters at all, but it's nice to know I've got them should they be required. Activities are brilliant, and there's a lot of customization you can do with them to create some impressive automations, and it makes things super easy for anyone else in the house to start something up and does away with that hunting around for the different remotes. Having the ability to talk to Home Assistant though is quite the game changer. All the lights in this room are Zigbee devices, and I've got them hooked into my movie night activity via Home Assistant. So when we want to watch a movie, then everything powers up and the lights dim down, along with an LED strip turning on under the TV bench. And yes, you could achieve something similar in Home Assistant, depending on what your devices report back and how well they're integrated. I'm sure many will be drawing a direct comparison with the Harmony Elite, as well as a potential upgrade from the Sofabaton X1S, of which there are several improvements, not just in terms of performance and features, but also as an overall package. As for the Harmony Elite, they have similar features, and this seems to be where Sofabaton have tried to gain an advantage by moving away from the plastic shell and finally integrating Home Assistant amongst other features into the X2. After the Harmony Elite was discontinued in 2021, those wanting a similar experience have been looking to the market for something that would offer the same levels of functionality. Some have moved to smart home ecosystems such as Home Assistant, whilst others have decided on alternatives like the Sofabaton X1S. The X2 remote is a step up from the X1S with a premium feel and much needed enhancements all round. The device integration is fantastic with a simple process to add them to your hub, and integrating Home Assistant via MQTT expands the capabilities almost endlessly. My only niggles are purely focused on the mobile app, which I find to be slightly clunky in some areas. It's functional rather than outstanding, and the UI could do with some improvements here and there. At times it can be a little glitchy, especially when doing a firmware update, whereby it's seemingly forgotten the hub only to find it again after the app has been restarted. This is, however, just software, and it's the type of thing that could be easily fixed by Sofabaton in a future update. But as it stands though, it doesn't prevent you from doing what you need in creating some impressive automations for your home. I'm sure many will question the price of such a device, and it's certainly not cheap, especially if you think of it as just a universal remote. However, I had a quick look on eBay at some used Harmony Elite, and it's quite staggering what they're still selling for, despite being no longer available from Logitech and therefore potentially unsupported at any time. If you want to pick up the Sofabaton X2, then it's available now for $329, and I'll leave an affiliate link in the description down below, along with an exclusive discount code that Sofabaton provided just for my audience. If you found this video helpful, then I'd appreciate a thumbs up, and why not subscribe to the channel for more smart home content like this. But as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.